Hello. Hi, I'm Jillian,
I'm Hayden.
I'm Jared.
I'm Nick. I'm Sam.
and we are the Venice Project Center story team. We are working on a multimedia showcase for 35 years commemoration of the Venice Project Center. So what is the Venice Project Center? If you weren't paying attention to Professor Carrera earlier, you wouldn't know that it was founded in 1988 by Professor Carrera with 100 local sponsors over these 35 years who have funded about 239 research projects with 800 students. Every couple years, we have an anniversary project, which is meant to recap all that has been done by the VPC. So for example, about 5 years ago, there was a 30th anniversary that made a website for the Project Center, and we'll talk about that later, but also this winter, we had the beginning foundations of what our project is, which is to be set the course for multiple projects in the future to recap the last 35 years. We'll make a multimedia storytelling campaign to publicize the 35 years. To do this, we have to create a storytelling strategy, then we have to implement the strategy, and then we have to talk about our plans for the 35th anniversary celebration.
So our first result was the creation of the storytelling strategy. And our strategy was to celebrate the past as well as planning for the future by using present-day tools such as digital media, a website, and videos. We started a social media campaign to increase public outreach of the VPC and utilize story map software such as ArcGIS for storyboarding strategies. We chose these three platforms because they're modern, popular, and convenient. In addition to the digital media, we also created a new website for the VPC and overhauled previous project data into it. We did this because we wanted the website to be more maintainable, accessible, and informative than the one created by the 30th anniversary project. We began a YouTube docu-series about the history of the VPC because videos are a very versatile way of storytelling and we needed versatility for the various projects conducted by the VPC. Also, YouTube has a very large audience which will help with publicity.
Now, let's begin addressing how we actually implemented the strategy. We started by breaking up our implementation into three core parts: content organization, production management, and our final product. Let's start with content organization. We began by reading all of the previous IQPs to understand how we could create an accurate storytelling strategy. We then broke them up into these four categories, them being heritage, tourism and demographics, urban infrastructure, and environment.
All right, so the first topic is heritage. This is broken up into three smaller topics, being architecture, outdoor art, and churches. The first is architecture. This covers things like entrances, bell towers, and plazas in the city, and most of these projects focus on the cataloging of these, as well as mapping them and creating preservation efforts. All right, and the next is outdoor art. This covers public art, coat of arms, and statues. Again, most of these focus on mapping as well as cataloging the different types and their locations. And the final category is churches. A lot of the work done by the VPC about churches involves photographing the floors, cataloging them, as well as identifying churches that have been repurposed and what they're now used for.
All right, so our next theme is tourism and demographics. This we split into population, tourism, and economics. So projects within the topic of population deal with the quality of life of residents and locals of Venice and why the population is declining and how we can combat this. The next topic, tourism, it relates to the projects that have researched the impacts of tourism, and it kind of studies the different kinds of tourists that are in Venice, such as excursionists, who are tourists that stay for only one day without staying overnight in the city. The final topic within tourism and demographics is economics, and projects within this research the job market and available job opportunities for locals, and also the decline of local businesses because they are being replaced by tourist-catered buildings.
The third theme is urban infrastructure, which comprises of canals, bridges, docks, and mobilities. Canals are concerned with the hydrodynamics and wall damage of the canals, and normally these document the modo andoso and turbulence of boats. Bridges are mostly projects focused on the history, and then as well as documenting the utilization and inventory of these bridges. Docks are projects on docks and their uses, as well as inventorying them again and making sure we have enough in the city. Mobility is about accessibility and pedestrian traffic and boat traffic as people move in and out of the island.
The fourth theme was environment, which had the 4 topics of ecosystem, energy, agriculture and greenery, and pollution. Examples of content about the Venetian ecosystem include material about the Venetian lagoon, native species of Venice, and the conservation of the Venetian ecosystem. Environmental energy is about the manufacture of clean energy systems such as solar power. And even though Venice is a city, there have been multiple researchers dedicated to practicing organic farming and reviving plant life to preserve the agriculture and greenery of Venice. Lastly, as Venice has become more developed throughout the centuries, there have been pollution problems arising such as acid rain and the effects of the Murano glass factory, as well as research into ways to combat these, such as recycling and the utilization of alternative materials.
All right, let's move into our second section under the implementing the strategy, which is production management. So the plan for our production management begins with equipment management. This included us testing all of the equipment, organizing it into a spreadsheet, and creating guidelines for future teams to be able to use these much easier. Then we broke it into production guidelines. So this included us creating timelines about the phases of creating a production, as well as organizing the software and tools for how to do this production. And how-to guides. These were specifically about the story mapping software that we use, which we'll get to later, and the DaVinci software, which is an editing tool that we used for our production.
All right, so the next step within the production management was to create a spreadsheet of all of the available equipment that we have at the Venice Project Center that we can use. And then also giving guides such as manuals, helpful YouTube videos, and our own created guides linked within the spreadsheet so that future teams can learn how to use the equipment easier.
We created production guidelines that allowed us to allow future teams to go through the problems that we faced and have a better idea of how to tackle them. This allows them to expedite their process as they go through in the future. We did this with how-to guides, so we made production guides, equipment guides, interview guides, editing, and story map guides. The production guidelines were basically everything you need to do all at once, how to break it up, who should be doing what. Equipment guides were collecting the manuals as well as like common problems that you'll find in troubleshooting them. The interview guides were what you would need for an interview, what you would need for an interview in the field, and like what kind of questions you should be asking them. And the editing guide was mostly specifically for DaVinci, which was the editing software we used, but they were generalized, like how to use them and what like specific words and keywords in case they didn't actually use DaVinci. We also made a story map guide, which how to use the story map from ArcGIS, which we'll talk about later.
All right, so finally, all of this effort of content organization and production management culminated in our final products.
So we created a new sustainable site using a React Next.js framework. Now future groups will be able to add their projects easily, and the future story groups will be able to add their future episodes as well in a brand new page. The previous website had a few inaccessible links, but the new one has far more accessibility to previous project data.
All right, let's begin by going through a quick demonstration of how to use the new website. So let's start at the homepage. The homepage has been roughly modeled after the old one, however, with a few differences to make it more readable and overall cleaner. Now let's go into the core of what's different between the old one and the new one, starting with the login system. If I were to log in with my own account, logged in. Now, if I were to go over to, say, student projects, no, I do not want to save the password, and then hit add edit to the URL, it now pulls up a tab where you can create a new project. Additionally, if I were to go back to the core project page, and then say, look at my own project, by the way, full text search, and search all of the things from the descriptions. I can also add /edit to the end of this URL. Oh. Apologies. Let's go. And now, say I took this thing where I accidentally added our paper to the description instead of as a link. I can take that, edit that, add a new link. Submit that, commit those changes. It says, hey, your changes have been saved. If I were to reload the site, those changes are in fact saved. And this persists across edit or non-edit. Finally, we also created a new page to house the future team's docuseries. So now talk a bit about the web infrastructure and the thing behind this. First off, we chose Vercel as our hosting platform because it was free and offered us some advanced features like middleware. Additionally, we used HashiCorp's Terraform to make it so that we could take our entire web infrastructure, tear it down in a single command, and rebuild it, thus meaning that our infrastructure can be reproduced across accounts no matter what happens. Finally, we worked on making backup data strategies so that we never lose data again.
All right, so the next product that we created was a story map. For those of you that don't know, story maps is an interactive software made by ArcGIS that is able to combine the visual aspects of a map with the narrative aspects of storytelling. For our project, this was useful as a storyboarding technique for our YouTube videos, and it can also be used as a condensed version of the videos for those who would rather read them rather than listen to them. And we will now try to visit our story map. It's already open, right? It's okay, it'll load. So this is a story map. This is the one we made on bridges. As you can see here, there are many different things you can put into a story map. This is a bar that you can navigate to different parts of the story. This here talks about Venice before bridges because for those of you who don't know, there have not always been bridges in Venice. They used to cross the canals just with boats or on horseback. They would wade through the water. So here you can see you can put images next to text. So that's one of the features. Here we talk about the early beginnings of bridges. So as the canals started to push sandbars into islands and they got closer together, they were able to create bridges. This here is actually part of the Venice Project Center website that you can embed into a story map, another capability of it. And you can just interact with it to see how Venice has changed over the years, how the islands have evolved. Next, we're going to talk about what exactly is a bridge, because I'm sure many of you know what a bridge is, but in Venice it is specifically something that connects two islands over a body of water, not just connecting anything over a body of water. So that's a very important definition there. This here is an image gallery, which is another aspect of story maps. You can put images of anything you want in a gallery. All right, now this here is we're actually going to go to this one here, the roles of bridges. So this is called a sidecar, which is just floating text over a picture that you can scroll through, and it will change as you scroll, which we'll do in a second. This just talks about how Venice bridges are unique from bridges anywhere else in the world because they separate the pedestrian traffic from automobile traffic, which is very unique to the city. They also house all of the infrastructure of the city, so any of the phone lines, the internet lines, electricity, gas, all of that is right inside the bridge, as you can see. Then we have, they are also the only exits and entrances in and out of the islands, so they are also used as emergency exits, and therefore they should never be congested in case of emergency. Finally, they can protect you from the elements, which is not something people always think of. If you're in a boat, you can go underneath a bridge when it's raining to protect yourself from that. And then now we're going to move over to possibly the most important part of story maps, which is the map itself. This here is called a guided story map. You can choose anywhere on the map you'd like to go, and it will bring you there with an image and a description as well as a title. And you can scroll through these, and you can also exit out and choose any other one you want and navigate as you wish. And then finally, the last feature that is important to note of story maps is this slider here. You can look at a before and after image of any picture you'd like. This here is the a picture of boats that can go underneath these bridges at certain tide levels. So this here is a low tide, so all the green means that those bridges are able to be maneuvered under, and this is at a high tide. And that is story maps.
So we also, as part of our project, filmed a documentary. This was also part of creating things and supplies for future projects, such as B-roll. So we recorded multiple shots from multiple cameras and angles, and we uploaded them to a shared drive so that future students could use those images and videos for their own documentary. We made a pilot focusing on traditional boats of Venice, and that culminated into this complete documentary, which I cannot click from where I am. Venice's maritime culture is unique, as is the strategy the people of Venice took when manning these boats. Traditional Venetian boats are peculiar among others in the way that they are rowed. Vessels such as the famous gondola are rowed facing forward with a singular oar made mostly for steering. The boat is controlled with placement of the oar to a specialized oarlock called a furcole. As motorized boats became more convenient, traditional boats began to wane. Of the 50 known traditional boats, 6 were found to no longer be in existence, and 13 were in a category of endangered. Additionally, the number of manpower boats have been depleted. The number of stations and gondoliers available have decreased.
All right, the final segment of our presentation is about planning the 35th anniversary. So this just goes over what future teams can do as they prepare the production of their own episodes. So it details where they should start and how they should structure their time. And there are also future possibilities beyond just creating videos. For the purpose of our own project, we focused on future teams creating exhibits. The VPC has previously hosted exhibits. The 30th anniversary team actually had an exhibit up in the bell tower of this facility, right up here, as you can see in this photo down here, where they displayed all of the research that the VPC has done. So we would like the future teams to create an exhibit for the past 35 years based off of this blueprint that the Winter 2022 team created of this building. And this would involve the future teams organizing the content further, deciding what should be displayed, as well as the actual planning involving times, dates, guest lists, food, all of that stuff.
All right, and we hope that all the work we have done here can hopefully set up future teams pretty well. And who knows, maybe someday we'll come back for the 40th anniversary in 5 years.
Can I just go to the contact?
Any questions or comments from anybody in the audience? Including our own students, if you guys want to ask questions. What? No, I think it's in the video itself. It's in the video now. Okay. Any questions or comments about our storied history of the Venice Project Center? All of this will be on their website, which you can get to, I assume, through the QR code there. But at the end of the week, everything will be done and it will be all posted there.
Yeah.
Okay, so without further ado then, thank you again.